The fourth speaker this morning is Mark Wilson. Mark's the Managing Director of Legend Mining Limited, and he is a member of the Institution of Engineers Australia and a chartered professional engineer. His business background has included management of remote construction projects and 10 years of commercial construction. The past 20 years, hang on, how many years? Yeah, geez, you're looking good, buddy. The past 20 years has been involved in resource-focused companies. Please welcome Mark.
Thanks, Dan. I was actually a bit worried coming to a nickel conference and not having my favourite Welshman around the place, and lo and behold, he lobs as the chairman of my session. Although I was a bit concerned about his garrulous nature, where he threatened us all to keep on time and promptly ran 4 minutes into the first speaker's time and getting us off 4 minutes late before we started. But we will park that for now. Legend's an exploration story in the Fraser Range. And it's really about people, it's about project, it's about our capabilities, and I think the size of the prize. Our usual disclaimer, the contents of my presentation today, I'll talk very shortly about the nickel market because I think many other speakers have covered it, and then run through Legend from a corporate, investment, project, activities, and then a summary. The nickel market, I think people often forget that stainless steel is still the greatest consumer of the nickel product. It doesn't tend to be the thing that we talk about in West Australia because most of our nickel is all nickel sulphide. But the whole story about this is that the pie is growing. I tend to stay away from forecasts because I believe there are only two types of forecasters, those who don't know and those who don't know they don't know. And so if you tend to stick with things that are facts, and the facts on this slide is the global nickel market was 2.45 million tonnes in 2020. In 2021, that had grown to 2.85 million tonnes. And importantly, the battery consumption component over that time went from 8% in 2020 to 13% in 2021. And that is all driven by these projections of the consumption of the battery market going forward. But still, you know, stainless steel is the largest consumer of nickel in the world today. Our capital structure and financials are really dominated by our top 20 shareholder list, and they're people who know what they're doing, both as an investment case and also specifically about nickel in the Fraser Range. Our largest shareholder is Mark Creasy with 29.9%. He's also our joint venture partner, and his history in this range goes right back to a hunting trip where he went looking for scavenging the residue of Skylab in the 70s and realised that what Newmont had come out there looking for in a couple of years before was actually in this belt. And I think it was Brad touched on the Thompson nickel belt analogy in Canada, and this belt is very much underexplored. IGO is our second largest shareholder, as Matt Ducey gleefully pointed out to me this morning when I went and said, "Nice to meet my second largest shareholder, Matt." He said, "We own shares in all of this mob." So it made me feel very ununique. I'm the third largest shareholder. All of my stock's been bought on market. That's quite well documented, Bailey Group. And importantly, Michael Atkins and Derek Waterfield, who both sit in this management and directors slide, are both members of the top 20. And you can see that the top 20 here hold 63% of the stock. It's also worth noting that in Legend's employees, we have the direct employees who are responsible for 3 of the 4 massive nickel copper sulphide discoveries in the Fraser Range, notably Silver Knight, Octagonal and Mawson. And with Oliver's connection with the Creasy Group back in 2012 when Sirius discovered Nova, he also, along with me as a shareholder of Sirius, had ringside seats at not the production side of that story, but the discovery side. And I think the point I want to make here is exploration discovery is in Legend's DNA. This is the story I want you to walk away from today, and that's what I'm trying to say to you. There was a bit of a giggle over diggers where there was a lot of stories of kings and queens in the nickel game and who was going to take over whom next. And I was a bit worried that Legend was missing out. But at that time I was having some discussions with Hilary MacDonald, HM to some and Her Majesty to others. And so Legend now has our Queen on our board, and we welcome Hilary to this new position that she's taken. The investment case fundamentals, I've just talked about the people in our corporate and technical team, our joint venture partners. The biggest block on the best street will come later in the presentation. We've talked nickel. We've got a strong cash position. That's always been in my DNA, to be funded to what you want to do. You're always going to hear a systematic exploration approach from Legend going forward. And the Mawson discovery in December of 19, I think really sets the case for why I'm talking about now is the right time and buying opportunity in Legend with this leverage to success with our price down here. This is what we did with the discovery of massive nickel copper sulphide at Mawson, and I can promise you if we turn these things into mines, you're looking up here on the scale. So when you're carrying a market cap of $110 million, sorry, I've got ahead of myself there a bit. The market is a very savvy animal, and the reason is people understand what the power of discovery in the Fraser Range means. And Matt Juicy put up on his slide earlier this morning, they're producing nickel at Nova at $1.95 Australian a pound. That comes back to about $1.26 US a pound, and the current price on Kitco this morning is getting up around $10. The metallurgy we've done on our Mawson ore tells us that that feed would go straight into that Nova mill without a hiccup, and I think that's where the market is acknowledging that where we're playing is a great place to be. ESG's very high on our list of priorities, and I would just encourage you to our website to check out that. Where is this much vaunted Fraser Range? 300 kilometres east of Kalgoorlie. I think the Trans-Australian Railway line is a very important asset because we're not stranded out there, and a spur line up from that trans line to our Mawson discovery would not be a major capital cost. When I started at Legend with this Fraser Range story, Hartley's had produced this map of all of the players in the Fraser Range immediately post the Nova discovery. And you can see from that legend of companies on the left-hand side there was a plethora of juniors who thought all you had to do was go and get an EM anomaly, drill that, and you'll do another Nova and go from 20 million to 2 billion in 3 years. Well, it doesn't quite work like that out there. By 2016, the majority of those guys had got the stitch and headed elsewhere because it's not an easy country to work. Legend, on the other hand, had made a deliberate decision that this is where we were going to stake our flagpole, and in particular in this central area, and if you come to the booth and see Oliver and Chris later, they'll show you this gravity anomaly, which is the central gravity anomaly, which is why I believe that this is the sweet spot in the range. Fast forward to 2022, IGO's mopped up even more of those stragglers, Legend's increased its footprint, and again I emphasise, 2 of the known massive nickel copper sulphide occurrences are in Legend's tenement. Mawson itself is a 16 by 6 kilometre intrusive complex, cluster of intrusives, and that's where we made our discovery in 2019. What we know about Mawson, all of these numbers in red are plus 1% nickel, and people have spoken about the importance of these deposits going forward, where the grade is not going to have to be as high as it's been traditionally required. We commissioned a 3D seismic survey at Mawson last year. That's the footprint of it. It was the idea to give us a look at the structure between 500 metres and 1 kilometre down. It's done that very successfully for us, and I think I wouldn't mind spending just a minute or two on what a seismic survey looks like, because it's easy to wave your arms and talk about it. But these little gizmos there on these photos are the receivers. The silver part has got a receiver, and under his yellow hat he's basically got a data card and a battery. There are 8,300 of these put on a 18 by 18 metre grid across our project area, and at the end of the survey all of them are brought back and put into those banks of black machines or whatever to harvest the data, and that's basically what the receiving end of the seismic survey is. But the delivery end is you get these vibe trucks that drive along these lines, in this case 50 metres apart. I'll just show you a video of this vibe truck in motion, because they're doing these soundings every 18 metres, and if you listen to the back end when you're not listening to the mechanical noise, you'll actually hear the seismic kick in. And he's off 18 metres down to do his next reading. That photo on the left is the footprint that the plate actually leaves, and I think the screen that the operator here is looking at on his left-hand side, they've got 2 trucks operating and the areas have been divided in 2. That white area is what truck 1 had completed, and the white area 2, truck 2. And his whole job is to make sure in a minute cycle that you get the reading with this truck while this truck's moving up here, and when that truck is finished, this truck makes his reading and the next one goes up. And you can imagine the data that's collected from 6,100 of these readings into each of those 8,300 receivers, and that's why it's such a detailed operation. You end up with this seismic cube, which we're still getting to the bottom of really working out what this data means, because we are pioneering this in the hard rock exploration space undercover. The success that we've had in defining the mineralised intrusion in that 500 metre to 1,000 kilometre at Mawson, coupled with the fact that we know we've got a fertile intrusion at Octagonal, we know that there are massive nickel copper sulfides here, and we know it's a syncline, makes this an absolute compelling target. And what I was out there looking at on Sunday, Monday this week was really the logistics, getting ready for the preparation of the data collection phase of the Octagonal survey. Our regional projects, this is how we go about our task. Basically using air core drilling and EM on targets which we identify from the mag and the gravity to work out where we do our next phase of exploration. It's extremely rewarding. We've got 3,000 square kilometres, 600 of that's in JV with IGO, and the whole objective of this is really building up our pipeline. But with Octagonal and later Magnus, we already know that we've got the right intrusions for the rocks that we're looking at. These are the people that definitely help us punch over our weight, and the contribution of each and every one of those is well recognised by the team. The work for the balance of this year is really looking to a reprocess of the seismic data at Mawson and getting the logistics going for the seismic data collection at Octagonal, meanwhile doing the regional stuff. So the story, as I started, is about the project, the people, the passion, and really a specific objective to grow shareholder value. Thank you very much.